So I promised you guys I would do this problem from class for you. I'm going to do it two different ways. Both of them are really the same exact idea. It's just a different way to set it up. So let's first just start by doing the way I started with in class. So the first thing you do when you're multiplying matrices is you need to check and see if you can even multiply them, right? So we need to look at the dimensions. And remember the dimensions of a matrix, you look at the rows by columns. So this is a 3 by 2, and this is going to be a 2 by 3. And then you want to check and make sure the columns of the first one and the rows of the second match, and they do. So that means that this is defined, like we will be able to multiply this. And then the resulting matrix, when we do the multiplication, that comes from the rows of the first one and the columns of the second. So we know that this is going to be a 3 by 3 as a result. And I like to call, this matrix A and this matrix B, call this matrix C. So we'll label this as C11, C12, C13, C21, right? It's row by column, C22, C23, C31, C32, C33. Okay, now to find each of these, to do the multiplication, you look at the rows of the first one and the columns of the second one. So in A, we should only be looking at rows, and in B, we're only looking at columns. So it sounds kind of confusing, but multiply entries in the same row of A by those down the same column of B. Okay, so we're only looking in rows in the first one and columns in the second one. So if I wanted to find C11, if I want to find C11, this 1 here, it tells me, let's zoom on in, it tells me I'm looking in the first row of A, and this tells me I'm looking in the first column of B. Okay, so we're looking in the first row of A and the first column of B. So really what we're doing to find C11 is 6, -2, and -4, 4. And when it says multiply corresponding entries, what it means is we're going to multiply the first of the row by the first of the column, and we're going to multiply the second of the row by the second in the column. So what that's going to be is it's going to be the first of the row we're looking at times the first of the column we're looking at, plus the second of the row we're looking at times the second of the column we're looking at. And that's going to be -24 plus -8. That's going to be -32. So if I was to fill that in, that's going to be, oh, I didn't erase it all the way. That's going to be -32. Okay? If I want to find C12, if I want to find C12, this tells me that I'm going to be in the first row of A, and the 2 tells me I'm going to look at the second column of B. Okay, so let's go back to, so I'm still going to be in the first row of A, but now I'm in the second column of B because I'm in the first row of C, but the second column of C. Okay, that's how we determine where we are. So that's going to be 6, -2 times -2, -6. And remember, you're looking at the corresponding entries. So I'm going to take the first of the first row and multiply by the second of, or the first of the column. Then I'm going to add that to the second of the row times the second of the column. Okay, you don't have to write this part out, but it helps me do the multiplication, so I do. So we're going to have negative 12 plus 12. That equals 0, right? Negative 12 plus 12. So I'm going to put a 0, okay? Then we'll move on to C13. That is the first row and the third column. So I'm going to look at the first row of A still. So I'm still in the first row of A, but now I'm in the third column of B. Okay, so that's going to be, let's write it out again. We're still 6, negative 2, and then the column is 5, negative 1. Okay, so again, I'm going to do the first of the row times the first of the column plus the second of the row times the second of the column. So that'll be 30 minus 2 plus 2. Negative times a negative is positive. So that's going to be 32. So that is also, well, now it's a positive 32. Okay? Okay, so now we will start over. Well, not start over. Now we'll move on to the second row of C. So C21 says that I'm going to look at the second row of A and the first column of B, right? So now I'm in row 2 of A. Sorry for the zoom in, zoom out. I'm in row 2 of A, but I'm in column 1 because I'm looking for row 2, column 1. So that's going to be 1, 4. Okay, and that column is going to be a negative 4, and that's a positive 4. It looks like a negative 4, but that's just the matrix edge. So that is a positive 4. So we're going to do the first of the row times the first of the column plus the second of the row times the second of the column. And that's going to be negative 4 plus 16, which is 12. So we will fill 12 in for C21. Then, if I am looking for, we'll do C22. We'll keep the train rolling. C22, that says that I'm looking in the second row of A, right? We haven't moved out of the second row of C, so we're still in the second row of C, but now we're in the second column of C, so we're going to look in the second column of B. Remember that you are always in the first one, you're only looking at rows, and in the second one, you're only looking at columns. So it's always a row times a column. Okay, so that should help keep some things straight. The row is still 1, 4. We haven't moved rows, but we did move columns, right? So we're still in row 2, but now we're in column 2. Okay? Column 2 is going to be negative, that was probably really annoying, negative 2, negative 6. Okay, so now when I do my calculations, I'm going to do again the first of the row times the first of the column plus the second of the row times the second of the column. So that'll be negative 2 plus negative 24, which is negative 26. So we will add in negative 26. Okay, next up, let's take a look at C23. Let's just keep it moving. C23 is going to say, okay, you are looking at this second row. We are still in the second row of A, right? We haven't moved rows because we're still in the second row of C, but now we're in the third column of C, so we're in the third column of B is where we're looking. Okay, so that is going to be, we're still in the second row, but now we are in the third column. Okay, so we're still going to have 1, 4, but now we're multiplying by 5. It's a positive 5, right? 5, negative 1. Okay, again, as we've been doing, we're going to do the first of the first row, or of the row, times the first of the column, plus the second of the row times the second of the column. So it's going to be 5 minus 4, and that is going to be a 1. Okay? Let's move on to the third row. Okay, and last but not least, we need to find row 3, right? So we'll start with, as per usual, the first column. So we're going to look in, let's say, C31. And again, as always, zoom it in. This says, right, because the first number is the row we're looking in of A, and the second number is the column we're looking in of B. So this tells us that we're going to look in row 3 of A, or row 3 of the first matrix, and this tells us that we're going to be in column 1 of B. Okay, so if I zoom back out, so that we can see the matrix we are working with, and let me erase these from the last one we did. We're now in row 3, right? So I'm looking at 0, 5, and I'm going to look at 0, 5 the whole time now because I'm in row 3, but I'm in the first column to start. So this problem is going to be 0, 5 times negative 4, 4. Okay, again, you don't have to rewrite it like this. You can just look at it, but for me, that helps me see what I'm doing. So I do the first times the first, so 0 times negative 4, plus the second times the second, and that's going to be anything times 0 is 0, plus 20, that's going to be 20. Okay, so we'll erase this, and we'll put a little 20 right there. Okay, now if we are looking for C32, that's what we'll do next. How about it? We'll do C32, keeping in mind that now that is going to tell us that we are in, row 3 of A still, right? Because we're in row 3 of C, but now we've moved on to column 2 of C, which means we're now in column 2 of B. Okay, so zoom it back out so that we can see what we're working with. The row is going to be the same because we're still in row 3, but now we're in column 2. So that's going to be 0, 5 times negative 2, negative 6. First times the first plus second times the second. Anything times 0 is 0. So you'll notice this is going to cancel out for all of them. And then 5 times negative 6 is negative 30. So we'll go ahead and we'll put negative 30 in there. Okay, last but not least, we will do C33, which, as it has been, the first 3 is going to tell us we're in row 3 of A, right? We called this first one A, the second one B, and then this 3, the second 3, tells us what column of B we are in. So we are in column 3 of matrix B. So that's going to be, we are still really zoomed in. That is going to be same row. Now we're in the last column. So we'll have 0, 5 times, now that's going to be 5, negative 1. As we've been doing, we're going to be first times first, right? First of the row we're in times first of the column we're in. Then add that to second of the row we're in times second of the column we're in. So 0 minus 5 is negative 5. And after quite the feat, we are left with our finished matrix. Okay? Now I'm not going to go through this entire thing again, but the chart, kind of the chart way Miss Singal showed you guys is really cool. So I wanted to write it out in here as well. I'm not going to go through all 9 calculations, but just kind of show how she determined, what row and what column she's in. Okay, so the way Miss Singal sets it up is a little chart so that you can clearly see what row and what column you're in, right? So I like to look and think, oh, okay, I am, in row, I'm looking for row 3, column 1, so I'm in row 3, column 1. But there are a bunch of other ways you can look at it, and one cool way is the way Miss Singal showed us in class, but I'm not sure if everybody saw it, so I'm going to draw it up. So she takes one of her the first matrix and puts it here. Okay, remember with matrix multiplication, you can't just switch the order, right? You have to keep it in the order. So she puts her first matrix here, and I'm going to make it just a little smaller so we can fit. And then her second matrix, she puts right above it. And then the resulting matrix goes right here. And we can see, oh, it's going to have 1, 2, 3 rows and 1, 2, 3 columns. So that's how we can see that it's a 3 by 3. And that comes from the fact that there's 3 rows in the first one and 3 columns in the second one. Okay, and then this helps her determine which rows and columns she used to find things. So say I want to find, this one right here, because there's going to be 9 blanks. I want to find this one, the middle of the bottom row. That is the term I am looking for. I'm going to use this row and this column. So you still have to know, it still is the same process of, first times the first plus second times the second. That process is the same, but in terms of determining what row and column you're looking at, you can get it from this little chart, right? So then if I were to want to find, say I want to find this one. Well, this is going to take this row and this column. Again, you have to do that math, right? The first of the first row times the first of the column plus, the second times the second. And we'll get -4 plus 16, which is, again, 12. So the amount of calculations is the same. This part right here is the same. But what's a little easier, maybe, if that's the way you think, is figuring out which row and which column you're using. Okay, either way is fine, and either way requires the same amount of calculations. There's no shortcut for the calculations, and you do need to make sure you show work for the calculations, right? You can't just have numbers appear magically. But yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that cool way that Miss Singal had, but the math idea is the same. If you made it this far in the video, congratulations. And yeah, I hope it helped.